call this regularly scheduled meeting of the South Tahoe Public Utility Board of Directors to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have any comments from the audience? Okay. Seeing none, how about corrections to the agenda or the consent calendar?
Approval. I'll second.
Motion and a second. And that motion passes unanimously. That brings us to Mr. Bledsoe.
Okay. We'll do something a little different today. I brought Jessica Henderson with me, who's cross-trained for my position, because I'm still leading. She is going to give you a kind of quick overview of what we talked about on the monthly billing process. And I'm going to sit back and cross my fingers, push you both the right way. And another good thing is you'll probably be able to understand her a whole lot better than you'll understand me.
Good afternoon, you guys. I am here today to ask for approval to move forward with the monthly billing implementation. On March 1st, the Finance Committee met, and the consensus seems to be it's time. It's time for the district to make this transition to be more like all of the other standard utilities. That would allow our customers the ability to budget. They would know when to expect their bill. The customer service office frequently receives phone calls saying, why is my monthly bill $400? So it's that long drawn out conversation of, well, it's not. It's a 3-month bill. You can split that up. That has not worked. So we are here today to ask to move forward with this. Even though this is an additional annual cost, staff feels it will be worth it in order to provide better service and payment options for the customers. When doing research on this, we found that utilizing the same standard practice as the majority of other providers, customers are more in tune, making sure their bills are paid on time. It provides better cash flow, and ultimately, customers have a better handle on their water usage. So when we talk to a customer in October, we're asking them to remember a toilet leak that happened in July. If we go monthly, you can remember what happened a month ago. By making this move, we will be granting the request of thousands of customers over the last several years. With that in mind, do you guys have any questions about moving to this process?
The only question I have is this meter reading.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
You're asking the right person. So I oversee the AMI system currently, and we have over 90% of our meters reading on that system. So outside of maintenance, that is a process that can easily be done weekly, as long as we're reading meters and maintaining them consistently. It's all just by a push of a button these days. Yeah. Okay.
I just want to say I think you did an excellent job for the record. So, you know, the district's in good hands.
I don't even miss it.
No.
You kind of sprung this on me. He said you're going to present it as fun.
No, I just want to say I'm supportive, you know, for a while and for all the reasons you cited. I think, you know, in alignment with some of the budget realities we're facing, I think, although we've been reluctant because of staff time and cost, you know, your point, it's time based on so many different reasons, so many different variables.
And our hope with this is we can get more of a presence online with our customers. And of course, if we are able to succeed with that, that would reduce postage costs and it would make it easier to get messages out as a whole for the entire district. So, okay, well, with that, I ask you to authorize staff to convert from a quarterly billing process to a monthly billing process and include the additional associated costs in the fiscal year 2023 budget.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you guys. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm going to approve payment of claims in the amount of $2,490,364.18.
Second.
Okay, and ad hoc committees and liaison report. Anybody have anything? Yes.
So I think both the updates were given at the last meeting. So now, right? Yeah.
Operations committee met Monday, went through a number of items. I think there's anything really not alarming here. Pretty ordinary meeting. I think staff got everything organized, so that's really the highlight there. I got kicked out of the meeting for all these things, so I don't know what happened. And then finance committee met right before this meeting, Kelly and I, and reviewed some of the tweaks to the rate increases that we discussed with the previous finance committee, and we're pretty happy with what staff came back with. And I think that's ready to come back to the board next week.
Right.
Yeah. So, let me just see over on the water agency right now. Over on the water agency met on the 9th, and a very interesting presentation by Tahoe City Public Utilities District. They talked about their acquisitions of systems, of small systems. Basically, their utility goes along the whole west shore, right down Maple Bay. And they've acquired 10 different systems since 1992, and 2 of them were in 2018, so very recent experience with that. Probably, if I was our staff, if we had questions on how it works. The other thing that was interesting in the presentation is they received $975,000 from ARPA. I can't remember what that stands for, but it's basically the COVID relief package. They had close to $1 million for projects, well backup power, PRV, water treatment plant improvements, and pipe pump sites. It was a pretty extraordinary project. They just didn't get that money was allocated from the DORADO water agency to them. So at some point we probably right.
Yeah. And we have talked to Ken already about that, but perhaps not about the conversation.
Then Evo gave a presentation on the groundwater sustainability plan. Good job, Evo. Basically outlined how our water agency will be considering adoption of that plan on April 13th. And then forward to have you guys in our board submitted to the state. That is my
Thank you, gentlemen. I have that. Brian. Inspection and
Last board meeting, we talked about water leaks. Today we're going to talk about CCTV inspections on our sewer system. Presentation. Hold up.
What am I doing?
Right.
These are, essentially,
Yeah, actually, we're gonna do a little report next, so.
you mind if I hover next to you? So the letters that I'm stuffing, like this is the season where we contact our customers all the time. But California Tahoe Conservancy received a SNF grant a handful of years ago to remove hazard fuels. And the acreage around the wastewater treatment plant, the 100 acres around the wastewater treatment plant, was included in that grant. And so we've been working with CTC to get that done. So in 2020, we did the mechanical thinning on almost 100 acres. And that stream environment zone, which is essentially the property, right at the start of the Black Barn neighborhood, behind the neighborhood, and in between the neighborhood and the emergency retention basin. That work has to be hand done. And so we contracted with California Conservation Corps, the Cs. They started that work last summer and got pulled away on fires. Obviously, it was a crazy year. And so they're about to start doing that work this month. And we expect it to be done by the end of the summer. And so we're sending letters to our neighbors right here in the Black Barn area, just letting them know that the work is going to begin, explaining how the trees are marked, and that there is an opportunity when CTC and the Cs do field work, they stack up firewood, and people can come and get it for free if it's available. So the letters that we're sending out are just letting folks know the project's beginning. If they have any questions, to call Julie, and a picture of the project map and the field work permit. And if it's too loud, we'll stop, but if I'm just sitting in a meeting, I may as well be stuck in the work. So that's just, in case you talk to residents, this is part of a larger project to remove hazard fuels. So we received grant funding for the planning and implementation of defensible space hazard tree removal for all of our facilities. And this project around the wastewater treatment plant will be completed by the end of this summer. But for all of our facilities, we expect that work to be completed by the end of next fall. So lots of great work for defensible space.
I'd say keep going with the letter.
Letter stuffing? Okay. Multitasking over here.
Thank you, Sally.
Okay.
So today's presentations to give you an overview of the district's gravity mainline condition assessment program, and I'll provide you an update on the latest round of analysis that we've done. We analyze our inspections annually and kind of extrapolate the system-wide projections from that. So I'll show you where we're at coming out of 2021. Okay, so some general facts about the collection system and the goals that we've set for the CCTV condition assessment program. We have 312 miles of sewer main line total. This is gravity main line. Comes out to just under 1.65 million linear feet. And the vast majority of the collection system is asbestos cement or clay pipes. It's about 80% AC, 10% clay pipe. The rest of it's made up of reinforced concrete PVC, all in kind of small amounts, not very common throughout the system. We have 316 pipes out of 6,652 pipes total that we have classified as being on our enhanced cleaning list. So these are pipes with known problems kind of spread throughout the system, and all of those are on a much more frequent cleaning schedule than the rest of our pipes. So we try to clean our entire collection system on an annual basis. The enhanced cleaning or EC pipes are cleaned much more frequently, many of them monthly. And so that's just if we can keep up on the cleaning on those, it seems to prevent them from backing up. They have all kinds of different problems with them. We'll talk a little bit more about those, but they tend to be based on the defects that we see in those pipes, consistently the worst pipes in our system. In 2018, we set the goal of inspecting 10% of our collection system per year. So that comes out to about 165,000 feet a year. And our underground repair sewer crew is typically performing these CCTV inspections 5 days a week. We have 2 camera setups right now. We have a large CCTV truck that's kind of got a fancier setup and runs different kinds of cameras. Then we recently acquired a portable camera, which allows us to inspect some of the harder to reach pipes that are located in meadows or easements. So that camera can be mounted either on a truck or in a tool cat. And so the crew has found that very helpful in getting out to those harder to reach areas. All of our CCTV inspections are coded according to the industry standard PACP, which is Pipeline Assessment Certification Program coding. And that ensures that the coding is consistent so that we can consistently analyze it year to year. And it lets us classify the defects in a pretty in-depth way and perform a lot of in-depth reporting and analysis on those. All of our sewer department is certified and trained in PACP coding, as am I and a couple of our engineers who work with that. So that's every 3 or 4 years we update that training and get certified.
Of the 316 pipes on the EC lane, what is the linear footage of those 316 pipes? You see as it relates to the overall.
Yeah, it comes out to just under by length, just about 5% of our system. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so taking a look at our recent inspection progress, going back to 2018 when we really ramped up the condition assessment program. So during that time, we had acquired a new CCTV truck, and we really hit it hard trying to gather data for that top 218 process to support the proposed rate increases. So in 2018, we can see that we had that goal of 165,000 linear feet. We almost doubled it. The strategy during that time was to get as much of a representative snapshot of the system as we could. So we inspected pipes all over the place, different sizes, different materials, to try to get that representative sample. Another aspect that went into that was the crew. That was their #1 priority that year. So they were doing inspections on overtime, on weekends to get that number up. So that's why we were able to make so much progress in 2018. 2019, we did not meet our goal, but we came close. 2020, we were doing really well. In January and February, we had inspected about 60,000 feet because of the mild winter, and then COVID hit. And once the crews went to split shifts, we kind of shifted our priority from CCTV to our hydro cleaning program, and so the progress suffered that year. Looking at last year, 2021, again, we did not meet the goal, so coming in at about 97,000 feet. The biggest reason for that was that we had a lot of equipment downtime. So our large truck was out for almost 3 months of the year with different equipment failures. We had sent it to we have a manufacturer of refuse services that vehicle down in the Bay Area. And the truck went down there, and while they were servicing it, they crashed into the building, and then it got broken into and vandalized. And so it was really just one nightmare after another last year as far as having equipment downtime. So that was one of the things that slowed us down. The other thing that slowed us down is that we were focusing pretty much exclusively on special projects last year. So we had a priority list of pipe inspections that we needed, either to design upcoming sewer projects or another thing that is a priority is that we inspect areas where there's upcoming city or other local utility projects so that we can see if there's a potential project for us to partner with them on. If somebody's tearing up the streets, we want to make sure we can get in there before a city paving project or something like that. The other big one was the river crossings. So those pipes are all over the system, difficult to get to, and the inspection rate is much slower. So that being said, looking at where we're at the end of our 4th year here, our goal would be 660,000 feet of inspection. We have just under 630,000 feet, so we're within 5% of what our 4-year goal was. This year so far, we're doing really well. The crew has both CCTV setups out 5 days a week when possible, so they're really moving at a good pace the first few months of 2022. So we're confident that this will be the year when we can hopefully reach our goal of 165,000 feet.
Okay, Ryan. Yes. I wonder if you could speak to our use of the Southwest gas TV data.
Yes. Yeah, so one of the things that we have accomplished is that Southwest Gas has been doing a lot of gas pipeline work, and part of their job when they do that is we've given them permission to run a camera down our sewer main lines in those project areas, and what they're looking for essentially is crossboards to make sure that they didn't drill any of their gas lines through our sewer pipes. Occasionally that happens. Doesn't happen too often, luckily, but what came of that is they had a contractor come out who was doing all of these inspections, so we were able to get in touch with them, and they actually provided us their inspection data, so they don't code them. It's kind of rough shot video. They're just running the camera down as fast as they can looking for crossboards. But what we were able to do with that is use that to basically look through those pipes, and one of the things we were able to do is double check. We have found some that they've missed before, but the other thing is we were able to see pipes that had major defects that we had not inspected recently, and we were able to go out and re-inspect those. So we got about 25,000 feet of camera footage from, I believe it was Arizona Pipeline, who was their contractor, but for the Southwest Gas projects. So that was really helpful to us, allowed us to get eyes on part of the system that we hadn't seen, and we found a couple defects out there that we actually went and did emergency spot repairs on. So that was a useful partnership, and this is actually the 2nd year that we've gotten footage from them. So hopefully that will continue. So, looking a little bit at how we do our annual analysis, we focus on a few main types of defects that require rehab, and I've presented those here, along with the typical method of repair related to each type. So the 4 main types of defects we're looking at are point defects. The most commonly seen ones are holes, fractures, damage to the interior surface of the pipe that's kind of localized. Typical repair method for this is a spot repair liner. Usually it's a 2-foot liner. We only repair the most severe defects. The ones that we see most often that we actually go out there and repair are going to be these fractures and holes where we can see dirt coming through the pipe or things like that. Other class of defects that we look at are root defects. These are roots and laterals and joints. Typically, this is a maintenance issue, so we'll occasionally use a spot repair to fix these if there's something really bad, if there's a hole in the pipe that the roots are coming through. But other than that, we use Root X herbicide that you can put down the pipe and it foams up, and we've seen that that's really effective in managing the roots. It does require staff time, but we're aware of certain, the areas where we have root problems most commonly. We spend about $30,000 a year on average most recently between parts and labor on just Root X, maintaining those root problems, but that's been effective. The next one that we're looking at is continuous defects. So these are defects that extend down the pipe for more than 2 feet. Typically, depending on how far they go down the pipe, these are rehabbed by a full CIPP lining. So we're starting to develop projects based on that repair method, and we're starting to keep track of this list of pipes that will require that. Typically, what we're seeing is the continuous defects take up about 40% of the length of the pipe. So that's what pushes these into that full liner being the appropriate rehab there. The last category we look at are sag defects. So this is a structural defect. The signifiers of it on the CCTV inspection are high water levels in the pipe, changes in water level. We clean the pipes before we inspect them, and so typically if you have a real steep change in water level somewhere in the middle of that pipe, that's a sag. And so the coding actually classifies these based on the severity, and they're assigned different scores. So typically, if we have a pipe with a sag, the only way to fix the sag is open trench replacement, a CIPP liner. It doesn't provide the structural integrity that we need because of the shape of that pipe. And so taking those categories and looking at prevalence of the defects in our system, you can see that we have quite a few point defects based on the inspections that we've seen so far. 23% of our pipes have point defects. Not all of these, so I said that the repair method for point defects is typically the short spot repair liners. We don't repair all of them, we only focus on the worst ones. In spot repairs, we do somewhere around 30 to 50 of those per year. We have an annual contract with a contractor who does those spot repairs. Recent prices have been about $1,200 per repair for that. Root defects, we're seeing that in just under 11% of our pipes. Again, the most common way that we manage that is with the Root X herbicide. We use spot repairs as necessary. These continuous defects, seen in fewer of our pipes, 0.8%. So we've identified 53 pipes, and we're expecting about 17,000 linear feet that may need this full CIPP lining. And again, based on the data that we have so far, these continuous defects extend on average about 40% of the length of the pipe. So for our open trench replacement, we talked about that being the only method to really fix a sag in a pipe. That being said, most sags are not too harmful. We keep an eye on the bad ones, can cause blockages and backups. So what we're looking at as far as the pipes that we would prioritize actually replacing are pipes that have sags, severe sags, along with other defects. So these are pipes that may have continuous defects like those extended fractures, along with severe sags. So we're seeing those in about 2.5% of our pipes. We're expecting system-wide, based on the data we have now, expected prevalence is about 46,000 linear feet of open trench replacement. You can see below that the current costs, and those are the total project costs for each method of rehab for the open trench versus CIPP. So CIPP is much cheaper. So one of the things we're focusing on is finding pipes that we can use the CIPP lining on before they get bad enough that they need a full open trench replacement. So that's one of our more recent focuses is finding those where the most common thing that we're looking at is issues with joints that can be fixed with that CIPP liner before they degrade too far. And again, we analyze our EC pipes separately when we do this, and they have a much higher incidence of serious defects. For example, 39% of our EC pipes that we've inspected have sags compared to 7% of the non-EC pipes, and 12% of the EC pipes fall into the sags and other defects category versus 2% of our non-EC pipes. One thing to note is, based on what we've inspected so far, 60% of the pipes don't have any of the defects that we're including in this analysis. Doesn't mean that they don't have any defects, but they don't have any major defects. So this is one area that's been, kind of contrasting with the water system, which is in rougher shape. The sewer system is in decent shape for its age. We have some problem pipes. It does need some maintenance. but it's not falling apart. So that's good to see, at least based on what we've inspected so far. Hopefully, there's not all the rest of the pipes are not the worst pipes in the
So you
system.
could have shortened the presentation a lot. You could have.
It's not falling apart.
It's not falling apart. Deal with the water system. No. It does need some maintenance, so we're designing some projects, but, so, looking at this is a comparison to the previous analysis, just to show you how, as we do this condition assessment, we're working with the data that we have to make our CIP plan and to kind of estimate what we're expecting to see for budgeting purposes and planning. So every year we update this, so you can see as we inspect more of the system, how these numbers have been changing. So we'll continue to refine the projections, but the nice thing about the sewer system, again, compared to the water system, is that we can get in and see these pipes. And so once we inspect the whole system, we kind of know what we're looking at, and it's much easier to plan and prioritize for the projects that we'll need. So that's one of the things that is much easier on that aspect. So you can see the numbers in the far left column are what I presented 2 years ago. The middle column is what I presented last year, and the far right column is what we're looking at as of today. So we've inspected just under 40% of the system by length, and so we're getting close to that goal of 40% at the end of year 4. So looking at the next steps as far as our sewer asset management programs, one of our big goals is, because we know that these EC pipes are the worst pipes in the system, we want to get out and see those. A lot of them are also in sensitive areas, like out in meadows and kind of some of our harder to reach easements. So that's the reason that we haven't inspected all of them yet, but that's one of our top priorities. So at this point, we've inspected 242 out of those 316 total EC pipes. So we have 74 of them left to inspect. The sewer crew's been working on that. Each year, as we get through them, what's left are the hardest ones to get to. So some of those are requiring some in-depth planning to figure out how to get the truck out there. But we inspected 58 additional EC pipes in 2021 and got some good data out of that. So what we're doing with this is developing our data-driven capital projects. So really, we're taking this defect data and using that to kind of come up with a list of condition-based sewer line CIP projects, whether those are open trench or CIPP. We have a group of both of those. Right now, on our 10-year needs-based plan, we have 7 gravity main replacement projects and 6 CIPP liner projects. Those change as we get more data. We continually refine the priorities and define new project areas. So that's kind of an ongoing process and a joint effort between the sewer department and the engineering department. But as we collect more data, the picture gets a little clearer each year. So we're going to continue refining our future inspection priorities. I talked about working with our local partners, anyone who's doing work, to make sure that we're aware of what their plans are. We've worked with the city and the county and the other utilities to kind of look at upcoming project areas so that we can be efficient and get in there and see if we have any issues we need to take care of before they get in there or during. We also have inspected all of the sewer lines around our own upcoming water main replacement projects to see if it makes sense to combine sewer and water projects while we're digging in the street. But we will continue to do that, and another priority upcoming is areas with known I&I problems. We have not inspected all of those, but we have some target areas that have been identified that we can look for issues that are resulting in where we know we have high I&I coming in. Upcoming priority is our force main asset management program. This is kind of a new program, and we have 19 miles of sewer force main that we need to find a way to perform a condition assessment on. Most of that has been in continual service, and we haven't seen it. We've never inspected these. We're working on figuring out the best way to inspect those. There are a lot of different technologies out there. Some of them require you to empty the pipe. Some of them require you, or will allow you to kind of put like a ball down the pipe that scans it. there are drawbacks to these, and they can be expensive, so we're exploring the options. But we do have a couple force mains that are good candidates for just our own CCTV equipment. They have inspection ports that we can get to, so that's one of our priorities for 2022, is to get into the couple force mains that are already set up for inspection, and we'll at least get a look at those. This is something that's been on our CIP for some time. We have the money budgeted, but we don't really know what we're looking at yet because we haven't seen these. So priority is to get the condition assessment done on those. The last thing that we're working on is that we talked a little bit about Baseform, the AI company who's helping us analyze our water leak data. So we have budgeted to start using them to analyze our sewer system data as well, starting in July. It'll be helpful, I think, because the one thing that's tricky with the sewer side is, it's a kind of a plus and minus, is that we have so much data, which allows us to see what we're looking at, but it's a lot to manage. And the Baseform will be very helpful in kind of sorting through newer inspections and helping us track as we make these rehabs which defects, we've historically seen in the system. There's value in knowing that. And then there's also value in being able to see which ones no longer exist since they've been removed. So that's kind of where we're heading next. Does anybody have any questions on what we're doing here?
What's the smallest that you can inspect?
I believe we're set up to inspect, so we have two camera systems. One of them goes down to 6-inch, and the other one is better suited for 8-inch and higher. But yeah, the current system, 6-inch is the smallest that we can get.
We have a lateral.
Typical,
We do have a lateral.
We have a lateral camera that can go 4.
one, yeah, so typical neighborhood, what's our collection system? How's the size progress?
Usually, for a typical neighborhood, 6-inch is the smallest mainline network we have. Yeah,
And we have a lot of 6-inch.
we have a lot of 6-inch, yeah.
Okay, so it's only the lateral from the houses that are smaller than that, so you can pretty much inspect it.
Correct.
Everything we have.
Yeah, we do have some 4-inch main lines, but very few.
Well, that's great. And so many agencies were blind for so long, this is really kind of exciting to be able to get down in and understand what your pipe systems are, so it's great.
I've got a question about the TV of the remaining EC pipes. Do you guys expect that we're going to hit a point where we're going to end up with this list that it's just like, I don't know how to get there?
At least a couple there.
Yeah, and those ones are concerning, and so I'm wondering if we should start talking about, if we have an idea of which ones those are going to be now, bundling them and getting, a service out here that's what they do, is access hard to access pipes. I don't know who that might be, but it might be worth, rather than you guys banging your head against the wall trying to get to those last pipes, we could carve those off and let somebody else do it, and then you guys can keep going.
You got my vote.
We're definitely worth considering, because those are the ones that make us nervous too.
Yeah. No one's
These
doing
pipes
it
that we haven't seen, and we clean monthly, because if we don't, they back up.
What's that annual cost of cleaning? I mean, if you look at cost of replacement, just kind of thinking, it's what, how much do we spend annually?
Question, I did this analysis a couple of months ago, and I don't remember the exact numbers. I can get that for you. We do it all in-house. So we have our own hydro cleaning truck, and our crew does that. So typically they're out there doing hydro cleaning 5 days a week as well. So I can give you those costs. It's mostly labor costs.
Right.
But if it requires an open cut replacement, it's really expensive. It's about double what it costs to replace a water main.
Right.
So,
But just, if you look at, timeline, if you're doing this annually times X number of years, at what point is it cheaper to look to replacement?
Well,
And then you, I would say as an aside to that, you then free up the time capital for, staff to then deal with other things.
Yes, are you talking about mainly the EC pipes that we're cleaning?
The EC, like exclusive units, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so those, we break those up, I believe we have, out of that list, there are about 80 or 90 of those that are done monthly. The rest of them are done less frequently, but more frequently than annually. So some of them are done twice a year, but the next biggest group are ones that are done every 3 months, so kind of on a quarterly basis. So that's something that the sewer crew, Ivy, do you know how many days out of the month it takes you guys to typically get through those EC list work orders?
It all depends, whether it be a storm or in the winter or busy in the summer. It's usually about half a month, one truck.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're working on too, and this is an ongoing project that Ivy and I are kind of in the middle of, is reevaluating those EC pipes and the frequencies that we're cleaning them on. So basically, I talked about those, about 90 of them that are on that monthly schedule. We know that some of those were on their monthly schedule after a sewer spill, and so there's some historical reasons where they somehow got on that list and on that schedule. So we're kind of revisiting those as we inspect them and refining that cleaning frequency and turning them down. So in the ones we've done so far, we've made it through about half of the list, and most of the frequencies have gone down. So that's was the main focus on that, freeing up some staff time, as well as not beating up our pipes. So we don't want to clean them, especially if they're in rough shape already, we don't want to clean them more than we need to because it can be tough on the pipes, just running the hydro down there. Some of these also have use the warthog nozzle, so some of these pipes have grease problems, so that can be tough on the pipes over time too. And that's just a real plumber nozzle head that goes down and cuts through all that stuff. But so that's something that we're working on, is refining that list. But it's also, we also have looked at projects about if we wanted to take care of some of these EC pipes, and they're just scattered all over the place.
Any reinforced concrete pipe in the system?
We do very few pipes and typically larger diameter. So we have some like 20 inch and above that's RCP.
I didn't see any defect list, any corroding reinforcement, that sort of thing. A lot of times on the ground, you see.
Yeah, and I don't know that we've inspected a lot of those since they're typically the larger diameter. So we actually have a project right now where we're focusing on larger diameter pipes. So what they're doing is we've got the main truck that has a camera that fits well in those 6-inch pipes, going and doing as many of those as they can in the neighborhoods. And then we've got the other truck, the portable unit, that fits a little better in 8-inch and larger. They're actually doing their own project where they're focusing on those larger pipes. So I think we'll pick some of those up. One of the areas they're doing this at that we haven't seen before is around State Line Avenue, Park Avenue, and that's where some of those pipes are. So it'll be interesting to see those. They're kind of localized there in an area that we haven't inspected yet.
Are those pipes that are out in the meadow and down by the bike trail at Sawmill, those are reinforced concrete, right, with a plastic liner? It's like a blue poly liner?
It's more,
Yeah, that area.
And that liner is not good.
Yeah, the liner itself, it seems to be like fracturing apart on the inside of the pipe, but the underlying concrete, it looks like it's in good shape still. Probably because it had a liner for a long time.
Only good on that, sounds like. Yeah, once that reinforcing on the ground goes far enough, and the streets collapse.
That'll be something to take a look at. Luckily, we don't have a lot of it. So that was fine. Length, I think we had maybe 1/4% of the system.
Is it Park Avenue was on
Park Avenue, yeah, around there.
We want to definitely hammer Park, because that's one of the projects that the city is doing, complete streets. Make sure we partner with them if there's something that would be addressed.
Okay. I know we have projects there too. On the water side.
Yeah, exactly. We can partner with them on the water, but if we got sewer, they'll let us do it.
Any other questions? Up here. Thanks for your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, start with a staffing update. We're currently advertising for a water resources manager and for a number of seasonal labor positions. 4 of these are actually planned for underground repair water to assist our own crews during the busy summer season. And we're planning to begin the customer service manager recruitment next week. Next item, federal funding for the Waste Tahoe Restoration Act, the LTRA. So really, you might have seen this in the news yesterday, but great news for the Tahoe Basin, and actually great news for the district coming out of DC. So just this past Tuesday, the president signed the omnibus spending bill, which provides full-year funding through September of 2022 for projects and activities of the federal government. And these projects and activities include record funding to the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act, $29.2 million this year. And this is really a massive achievement for the Lake Tahoe Partnership, our federal MSC stakeholders group, which we call Team Tahoe, in which, the district is a major partner along with JRPA, the Lake State Lake Tahoe, Tahoe Chamber, and many others. So this is great news. But I think even better news for the district, and for the first time ever, these LTRA funding will include specifically water infrastructure for fire suppression. It's specifically identified to receive $7 million this year, so a first time ever. So obviously a massive accomplishment for the district, who along with Tahoe City TUD, North Tahoe PUD, DIVGIT, and others have worked hard to get this specific funding allocation. And I also wanted to mention our effective work with MENS, our federal lobbyists, in this issue this past year, collaborating with our Tahoe delegation in DC, Congressman Amadei, and Senators Padilla and Feinstein and their staff. That really made a difference to finally include specific funding language for water infrastructure in the spending bill. We had been shut out of LTRA funding up to this point ever since its inception in 1997. So, tremendous accomplishment there.
Did you say 7 or 7?
7. So $7 million out of that 29 this year.
So it's all PUD?
It's specifically allocated to infrastructure projects for fire suppression. And so, I can talk a little bit more to that, how is that $7 million to be allocated? And this really gets to my next item with the Tahoe Fire and Fuels team, the TFFT. So that's the mechanism that recommends allocation of that $7 million. And we've been working on federal funding for quite some time. Last year, we had high hopes. We kind of saw this potential federal funding coming. So, Lynn and I started working with our water partners in Tahoe City and North Tahoe to really revise our process for ranking these TFFT projects. Because we expected that this fire team would essentially decide where the federal funding would go. So, and really in the last 4 months of last year, we worked with the team to we created a different project ranking system. And I guess long story short, on the old list the district had, we were way down the list. We would have been out of the $7 million funding picture. And now we have 3 projects in the top 6 in line to receive that $7 million. So we think 2 of those projects are pretty certain to be funded with the $7 million. So about $3.5 million for a couple different water line projects. So we're continuing to work with Forest Service and the EIP team at JRPA to keep that money heading our direction. This should be released this year, and we're ready. The project's ready to go. And also, great work to Lynn for her work on this in the last year, and really those those key relationships that she's built with the Tahoe Fire and Fuels team for many years. So great work for Lynn. She has about 45 days left here at the district. Who's counting? So, my last item listed here, I want to mention a meeting I had with Assemblyperson Megan Dolly and her staff this past Tuesday. I was joined by Tahoe City PD, North Tahoe PD, and our state lobbyist, Doug Houston. This is part of our water PURVEYOR partnership, and we started last July in North Tahoe and Tahoe City, if you recall. So this looks to be bearing some fruit as well. Anyway, at this meeting, we talked about the Tahoe fire, the importance of our water system, and protecting our community, and about the many remaining deficiencies in all of our water systems, and why we need state help to fund water infrastructure and fire suppression. So there's a substantial state budget surplus, and so we asked Assemblyperson Dolly to consider presenting a member request for $6 million to specifically fund water infrastructure in the Tahoe Basin, or South Tahoe City and North Tahoe PD. And this money would need to be spent quickly, and we're ready to do that. We're ready to do that. We've been getting ready, especially this past year. Engineering's been working hard to get more plan sets ready and really more wildland projects shovel ready should funding like this materialize. So we've been planning for this and hoping for this. That was a great meeting with Assemblyperson Dolly, and she's really receptive to this. I'm going to be providing more information to her, and she's going to work with Frank Bigelow on this and others in the legislature to gain support, and I really think this has some legs. So really great news on the federal and state funding fronts.
When do you find out about the state budget?
There's a schedule on that, March. Well, we'll know in the next 30 days if she's presenting that. But I believe that budget is to be finalized in the next 2 to 3 months, 2.5 months. So that's coming fast. And this budget surplus, it goes to kind of replenish some funds. There's some state purposes that it can go for, but the balance needs to be returned to taxpayers when those other projects come forward. It's something called the GAN. So we're providing projects that can be used with that budget surplus. But we think that $5-6 million is kind of a sweet spot, something reasonable that we can get in there. And actually, that if we get that, we can match that with the $7 million we're getting from the feds, and that's our 50% match. So it's essentially 100% grant money. Yeah, it's looking great. There's always a few more hoops to jump through. Well, we're getting close. It's looking really great. That's the last time I had on here, but I did want to bring up one more issue, and that's on county paving. We had, this is really a follow-up to our discussion at the last board meeting in regards to kind of the higher cost of county paving for our water leak repairs. And there was quite a bit of concern and discussion on this during Ryan's presentation last time. And we actually had some extensive discussion about the committee this past Monday. So I just wanted to update the full board. And if you recall some of those numbers from Ryan's presentation, there's quite a bit of difference between paving costs between the city and county last year. I think it was $30,000 in the city and maybe $160,000 or something in the county. Much of this was simply due to the fact that there were just many more leaks in the county than in the city, much more than usual, actually much more than ever in history. And a few of these leaks, like Norma and Youth Circle, really had really expensive street damage. Those are easy pipes. They go out, they cause flooding. There's a lot of street damage. So those were extensive repaving efforts. Aside from that, the county does require more paving repair than the city does currently. some major changes had come down for Placerville a few years back. We pushed back on that, but really we've been, I feel, effective in working with our local county engineers to minimize the pavement repairs in the county areas. And look at the requirements, I really think they're being pretty reasonable about it. And the amount of paving that they require for our bottom line leak repairs. So it's kind of a function largely of where those repairs are, and how extensive those leaks are. But we'll continue to work with our local county engineers in the field and monitor the situation. I think we're good where we stand right now with the county. We talked about maybe, reaching out to our supervisor or others to try to push back on this. But I guess I don't feel like we need to elevate this at the county at this time. But I'll invite any other more comments.
Well, it sounds like, in the report here in Knox, that our staff has been really working with the county and it has helped modify their requirements so that they're a lot more reasonable. So they've had a lot of positive impact on what's being focused on. So it sounds like it's working very good at that level to get things back in the reasonable range. That was it.
We'll keep track.
Yeah.
And with that, that's. I'm sorry, we have one more item? Oh my gosh. Oh, we didn't, I know it's Friday.
Got one more report. I noticed after John announced my job was going on board next week, all the excitement in the room that I saw, I thought, well, I'll just come up and give a staff report just so everybody can suffer just a little bit longer. So, as you may recall, we applied for some funding from the State Water Resources Board for customers who are delinquent on their bill from March of 2020 to June 2021. We did, and that was to help for the COVID-19 relief. We did receive about $252,000 for 400 accounts, and we have applied that to those accounts and sent out letters. And also just want to let you know we're going to do that for the same thing for sewer. It's going to be about 400 accounts, and it's going to be about $200,000 worth. So I think I'll get that paperwork in a week or two ago, so if we qualify for that, we'll be applying that to customer bills as well. Okay? Thank you.
Get a 3% administrative fee for your hard work.
Yeah.
Sending out the letters.
I think that's it. This meeting is adjourned.
Didn't our board workshop next month, or next week.
Well, next week, yeah, right.
It's not listed in the packet, but yeah, we have a workshop on the 23rd. That'll be noticed. And I'll be out of town, so my alternate location will be noticed.
This is 4 o'clock. That's pretty sure that was the time that worked for everybody, was 4 o'clock.
So looking good on the 23rd at 4 p.m. Okay.
It's been a moving target. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.